Hello, welcome. Today we're going to chat about the topic of brand. Now, this is a very important factor for every small business. It's one that even I've struggled with over the past 18 months that I really would like to bring to everybody's attention. As we all know, the marketplace is crowded. In fact, every day it seems to get more and more crowded, right? There's more noise than ever before, more distractions, more channels. Yes, lots of stuff. So it's so hard for us as we're beginning to build a business in a very crowded marketplace to get our message across and get people to really believe in it, to stand out and to get noticed, get heard. So regardless of how unique you think your offering is, there's always somebody out there that maybe have tried something similar and is going to be identified as such. So as we try to innovate, how do we get ourselves to stand out? Now that's where we begin talking about the whole idea of personal brand, branding in general. Now, as I've begun to look at it over and over, I've decided that the brand that identifies as Transformative Leadership Group is really the one that is deep in my heart. So I wanted to make sure that we begin to differentiate it. So I went to Michael Hyatt for some information. And what I'm going to discuss today really are his 5 keys of branding, along with some flavor from myself. And it's something that we need to identify. It's something that we need to own, and it's something that we need to be able to communicate to people on a regular basis. This is critical. It's something that we need to be able to stand for. A perfect example is Apple. When we think of Apple, we think of computers. It's very simple. When we think of Nike, we look at it and we think of their tagline, just doing it. There are so many brands. In fact, there are tons of brands out there that we identify very easily by just hearing either their name, seeing their tagline, or seeing their logo. So it really shouldn't be any different for us as individuals and as small business people, that we need to identify very similarly to get people to recognize us. Yet it helps us to differentiate. Now, what does it look like? Well, it really boils down to what am I offering? And what service and what value do I bring to the table? So one of the things that I guess I really need to look at are the 5 elements, as we discussed, in how you can help do this. The first one is to define the audience. Now, as mentioned, I have a tendency to be very broad-based. So this has been difficult for me to really identify the right audience. Still not sure I have it right, but I'm experimenting. The reason that it's number 1 is that it's the number 1 priority. People try to create a brand without consideration of their existing audiences, and they usually fail. And it doesn't matter whether your existing audience is 5 or 5 million, you have to get in touch and understand what that audience wants. Now, as I started blogging, I found out that as I changed the topic, the readership would go up and down. So what I didn't realize was I was looking at the contextual layout of my audience. That really was an important element as I began to grow. Now what I tried to do is I tried to narrow that down every time I write an article to make sure that I'm targeting in an audience that's better. The second element that Michael talks about is once you know who your audience is and it's defined, then you need to move to a clear value proposition. And this is really where you decide and determine what it is you have to offer, what provides this audience with a reason to come back, to keep coming back. Because it's all about the services that the audience get and whether or not they feel that it adds value to their life and their work. So whenever we're looking at this, we need to look at that differentiation factor. We need to really be able to identify what it is that they're looking at. And It's critical, because if you don't have a brand and a value proposition, then people, like I said before, are just going to ignore you. The third element is having a compelling brand slogan. Now, basically, I struggled with this, like I said, a number of parts. And it took me a while really to come up with something that I felt comfortable with. And today I basically say, helping businesses and leaders build and grow exciting brands. That's simply what I do. Now, it may take the form of leadership training. It may take the form of marketing. It may take the form of counseling or coaching. But the fact is that everything that I do has a focus in helping people grow their businesses and build exciting brands. And I also have to get you to understand that, in my point of view, a brand is really nothing more than a promise factory. So from that standpoint, what you deliver and how you deliver it becomes that promise delivered or committed. And how you commit it really depends on social credibility. It develops your social credibility. It makes it acceptable for people to buy in and pay you to come in and into their homes and into their offices and present your products and services. Now, number 4 was to have an engaging headshot on your website. And I'm a real stickler on this one, because if you don't have a headshot, people are talking to basically a dummy. It's whatever social media vehicle you're using, that plugin or that avatar that's there really doesn't say anything unless it's a picture. It can be a cute diagram, it can be your logo, but people really want to identify who's behind that. And this is why it's so important to have a headshot. And what makes a good headshot? Well, first of all, in my mind, it needs to be authentic. It needs to be clear. It needs to be professional. It doesn't need to be a glamour photo. It doesn't need to be an action photo. It just needs to be a simple, engaging discussion, and let people see your eyes, the smile, and the ability to be able to say, hey, I want to connect. I want to engage with you. Now, the last element that Michael talks about is this, having simple graphic components. We all know brands that we recognize strictly by looking at the logo. Now, this doesn't happen overnight. In fact, as I was early in my career, I used to know a gentleman by the name of John Geis, who was executive vice president at Target. And he made the statement back in the late 60s. He said, there will come a time that people will only need to see the Target logo, and they will know who they're talking to and what they're about. That has happened. TV ads no longer, or very seldom, have over talk in terms of saying Target. Very seldom do they provide taglines. They just use the red and the white, and they use the logo. So people become conditioned to know that it's Target, it's discount, it's value, it's different than everybody else. So it really is important. But again, keep in mind, this particular piece of the puzzle takes time to develop. So don't expect this one to happen overnight. Now, thanks for being with me during this very brief overview. If you have any questions, please feel free to stop by my website at http://tlg-rwme.us and drop me a note or call me at 630-935-3326, and we can discuss this as well as other topics of leadership that you'd be interested in. And I want to thank you and have yourself a very good week.